G'day guys, and welcome to the VEMA Trader weekly Bitcoin market scan. My name is Rhys, and today I'm coming at you from Nusa Lembongan, an island off the east coast of Bali. So, what I'm going to do in today's video is I'm going to go and take a look at Bitcoin, and I'm going to give you my thoughts on what it's doing at the moment and what it could potentially do over the next week or the next few weeks, depending on the time frame that we're looking at. So what we'll do is we'll head to VEMA Trader and we'll get started. Righto, so here we are on the weekly, and we got a sort of a bear hammer. You could call it a doji. Sort of depends how you look at it. To me, I see that as a bear hammer. Price pushed up, rejected really strongly. It did close slightly higher than what it opened. And it did also push down and push back up, but the vast majority of that candle is a wick to the upside. So for me, I would call that a bear hammer. What does that mean? That means, it doesn't mean anything for certain, but to me, that's just more points to the bearish case, right? I really don't see anything that makes me feel bullish at the moment. Again, we're consolidating above this supply zone that we've been sort of sitting above for the last 2-3 months. A bear hammer on top of that is not a good sign. Everything I see at the moment just kind of makes me think, okay, we are probably going to head through this zone. Do we make it to 11? Who knows? We'll reassess if we do go through this zone. But I look at this, I think, okay, I don't really expect this zone to hold for much longer. So on the daily, we have a zone to the upside at about 21,700, and I'm still sort of looking at that 17,259 as the key demand zone. You could draw in a few demand zones through here, but I wouldn't consider any of them sort of strong zones, right? We had a bit of a push. I mean, the reason that you can draw a zone from here is it's the pivot currently, but it's an extremely weak pivot. That's why I wouldn't bother drawing a zone in. The previous zone was here, based on that candle. That has completely been eaten. You can see we've gone through the bottom of that. And then, you could technically draw a zone like that, but it's too big for me to see it as anything that I'm actually going to use. So I just don't bother drawing it. So on the daily, the really key levels that I'm looking at are that 21,800 level and the 17,200. Potentially you could draw fibs. You'll get something like that, but they kind of already played out. This is what I was speaking about last week. They came to the 50. I'll talk about that more on the 4 hour. So I wouldn't really bother with these fibs now. They'd still be valid, certainly if we were to head up to 61.8. There is a chance you would see price action there. There's probably a bit of a 4 hour EQ maybe. I don't know if I'd call it a daily EQ. So, there is still, the fibs aren't done and dusted. Essentially to me, fibs are only void once we break this low or this high in terms of how I see fibs. In fact, I wouldn't even call them void, right? Because if we were to break the low, this minus 27 could come into play because we certainly did bounce from that level. But in terms of how I use fibs, right? I only really use fibs to look at the 50 and the 61.8. I don't really trade the others. I like to keep an eye on them. You will see things play out from them, but it's really only the 50 and the 61.8 that I use. So what I'm seeing at the moment on the dailies, we had this big sell-off. We had a very slight bounce, and it got very harshly rejected. Right, that's a huge bear hammer, this candle here. Let me get rid of that. We've proceeded to push back up again, but the last 3 candles we're sort of seeing rejection. It's followed by another bear hammer, and then some rejection. Now there were 2 big bull hammers in here, but they came after that bear hammer. They're essentially bookended by bear hammers. So, there's not a ton on the dailies that's making the case either way. It's really just a lot of indecision at the moment. But I kind of think in terms of, I guess, momentum, but not in the classical trading sense. In the sense that if the market's bearish and you get indecision, I almost feel like it's more likely to be followed by more bearish movement. Not always, but I kind of feel that way. It's kind of like the status quo at that point. So the default action. Of course, at some point you will get a move down. Consolidation that is like a Wyckoff accumulation, and then a move up. So that's obviously not valid in 100% of scenarios, but looking at things at the moment, I just don't think we're done heading down, essentially. And there's nothing I see on the daily that really helps me make a case for the bulls. The daily's not super bearish at the moment to me either. That's why I'm kind of only looking at 17,000 and the negative 27 extension. It's not like I'm seeing things here and going, oh, we're dead, like Bitcoin's going to zero. But essentially a lot of indecision after a bearish move down, just given, the candles and everything's kind of going on. I'm not super bullish on the dailies on Bitcoin at the moment. And finally, we come to the 4 hour. So on the 4 hour last week, we were looking at this. I might have even drawn it as a descending triangle, I think. But either way, it was either a descending or a symmetrical. Now it kind of looks more like a symmetrical, but at the time, I think I had it as a descending. Um, Either way, I was saying, I had a gut feel that price was going to head up. It did. Beautiful. I was really keen on, these supply zones and the 50 fib, and we got a textbook rejection from there. So that was cool to see. In terms of what's happened since, just chop, essentially. We bounced up. So we rejected really strongly from there, and we bounced up quite nicely. We did retest those zones, and then we've just really muddled along. I look at this, and I just think that's ugly candlesticks, ugly market structure. Price is essentially, I call it dribbling. Like, it's really just doing nothing. It's gone very sideways, and the slightest bit down. Where's my range tool? So over the course of 2 days and 8 hours, it's been in a $700 range, which is not much for Bitcoin. That's pretty constricted, I guess you would say. So this is a cool little, I guess, lesson. So if we take a look at the Bollinger Bands, you will often find that once Bollinger Bands, so Bollinger Bands are essentially a measure of, I can't think of the word right now. It's a probability term, but think of like variability from a mean. So they kind of measure, in some sense, they almost measure volatility, right? And you can see that's why they widen up so much here. Price is really volatile. It's making big moves. When they start to constrict, which they're actually seem to be widening a little bit at the moment, but they're quite constricted through here. You will often see a big move end up following. You can kind of see that here. They constricted, and then they just burst open. Variance is the word I'm looking for. I'm pretty sure. Someone can correct me on that if I'm wrong. But I think they measure variance, which you'll often see in like bell curves and different things. So another really good case here. They constricted, and then they really constricted. When you look at sort of this area here, you can see it just really tightened up, and then pumped out, and you see the Bollinger Bands really expand. You see price do some really volatile things. So could we be seeing that again? Possibly, but then you got to think the current range we're in was about 2 days, 8 hours. This one was 7 days, 20 hours. So there's no guarantee that it's going to happen anytime soon. And while they are tight, they're not this tight. They're not, sitting on the candles like they were here. But yeah, I mean, there's really not a whole lot that I'm seeing. There's certainly nothing I'm trading, even outside of the fact I'm sort of not trading at the moment. This is a textbook case of me, of the kind of market that I just don't trade. To me, it is just ugly. And I just see it and I go, okay, I don't really know what price is going to do. I don't really know where it's going to head. It's not moving in a way that's conducive to my trade plan. I like, nice clean pivots. I like good market structure. There is neither of those. I mean, there's clean pivots, to be fair, but there's not good market structure. There is just essentially chop. And that is not something I trade. So for me this week, there are no trades. Now, before I was about to finish up, but there is actually a demand zone you could put through here that is, quite decent. We had a fairly solid bounce from there. Didn't lead to new market structure, but that is a decent move up and out of it. So if we do get here, could get some sort of a bounce. But yeah, really not seeing anything that makes me bullish on the higher time frames. On the 4 hours, could potentially range for a little while. But yeah, for me, I feel like it's a matter of time until we start heading down here and testing these levels. And I absolutely could be wrong on that. It could head up and never retest those levels. But at the moment, that's kind of what I am expecting to see as the higher probability of what comes next. So that is it for me. Hope you guys are having a great time in the markets. I hope you are all slaying it. Have a great day. Happy trading, and I'll talk to you very soon.